Welcome to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Kim is a psychotherapist and executive director of ICU Talks, a mental health speaking ministry. This is a podcast about how to flip your lid and learning how to reconnect to who you really are.
All right, everybody, I'm sincerely excited about what's going to happen. Y'all hang tight. We've got an amazing professional here who's got a powerful personal story, one that I relate to, and honestly, all of us can on some level. So I just need you to come into this open mind, open ears, open heart today, and just take what you need to take today, but recognize the courage of who you're about to hear. And who you're about to hear is Roxanne McDonald. Let me tell you about her. She's a nationally certified recovery coach, nationally certified intervention professional. She's a registered drug and alcohol counselor. She has over 23 years of experience working with high-risk substance use disorders, many of them duly diagnosed. She excels at building strong therapeutic rapport with clients. She's a recovery specialist, driven to support and assist clients in achieving their therapeutic goals using motivational interviewing, active listening, compassion, and positive reinforcement. She has 23 years of continuous sobriety and 2 decades of experience helping people recover in jails, treatment centers, and in recovery programs. She also has 16 years of experience working with families who are affected by addiction and also people who are part of Al-Anon. She's worked 4 years as a guardian ad litem in the North Carolina court system. Currently, she's coaching, she's facilitating a treatment center, she's doing case management, and she's doing interventions in private practice. So Roxanne, that's an impressive resume. You're doing so much for the recovery community. So let me just thank you for that you're helping so many people to know the beauty of sobriety that you and I know today.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for having me. I was taught that it is an honor to give back and what was so freely given to me.
That's right.
And to help families and those that suffer with substance use disorder. So again,
absolutely.
Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm just glad that our Flip Your Lid audience is going to get to be a part of something that, not that I take for granted, but it's amazing to live in Charlotte and have over 370 AA meetings a week available, and that we get to hear hardcore stories, we get to see people recover, we get to see miracles, we get to see families restored, we get to see families not be restored, but people still stay sober. We get to see it all. And so this audience might not be as familiar with that type of atmosphere that you and I just thrive in. And so I think you're going to bring something really special today.
I hope so.
Yeah, I know you are. So, but our paths have crossed. We know some of the same crazy people. So here we are. And so I just want you to share a little bit about your professional life and then go into what event in your life flipped your lid that got you to where you are today.
So, I've been working with folks who suffer from substance use disorder for, 23 years, I would say. As you mentioned, in treatment centers, jails, in 12-step fellowships. Started out with substance use disorder, and I did that for decades. And I did that in the private sector. And then when I went to work in a treatment center, every day I heard, well, the identified patient was doing just fine until they called home. And I heard that enough times. And then I realized that the loved ones, the family members of the person suffering, that they were also suffering. Mm-hmm. And what I realized is that the identified patient, they're usually covered up in services, right? They have whole treatment teams to take care of them, but the loved ones are suffering.
Yeah,
and they're at home, right. And I realized that they didn't really have any resources. Now, I had started some 12-step fellowships. Gosh, I bet I started some Al-Anon meetings here in Charlotte 15 years ago. Mm. And so I had done that, but I had never helped them on a professional level. So I switched the focus, and it's not entirely, but I'd probably say maybe a third, half of my practice is working with family members and loved ones affected by substance use disorder, and giving them an opportunity to really process the impact that the disease has had on them and their own disease, frankly. We know about the parallel process in the brain now. So I do that. I coach family members. I do case management with family members. And I really like working with that side of the family as well, because they suffer too.
Absolutely.
It looks different. But make no mistake, it is suffering. Absolutely. And so being able to help people get healthy so that when their loved ones come home, because what we know is that if someone with a substance use disorder comes home to a family that's been treated, they have a 50% greater chance of having a positive outcome. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever been that person in a rehab who is changing everything so that they can see a 5 to 7% chance of recovery, I mean, when you realize that, just the family pitching in can increase it by 50%, that's really dramatic. So I'm really proud to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Our common person is Bob Martin.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I've known his crazy self for a really long time. And I had the privilege of being one of the co-founders, one of the few people who started Mercy Horizons intensive outpatient program, their IOP program. Yeah. And so very excited about that. And this is years and years ago. And so Bob was a part of that, and myself and a couple other people were a part of it. And so we had the family program. And so on family night, the family members are in one room and us Alcoholics Addicts are in the other room. And the laughter that came from the Alcoholics Addicts room was always a lot. From the family room, none. Every week, every time, none. Their pain was so deep. They felt so much more powerless. It was so much harder to stand by and watch than to actually be the one who's actually doing the drinking. And so I 100% agree with what you're saying. Their suffering is tremendous. Mm-hmm. I always say, at least I had a blackout. At least I got high for a little while. Mm-hmm. What did my loved ones get? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. So I'm so glad you're in the field today and what you're doing. Can you share what flipped your lid that got you so dedicated to substance addiction recovery?
Well, I think like most people who suffer with a substance use disorder, I got here out of pain and trauma. Mm-hmm. And that started for me. I grew up from Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up in Anchorage, and I grew up in an alcoholic home. And when I think back on my childhood, the very first thing that happens is I get this pit in my stomach, and my stomach starts to hurt a little bit. And I just remember walking up the driveway to the house with that pit in my stomach, just going afraid because I never knew what I was coming home to.
Yeah.
So I grew up in alcoholism, and I think like most children of alcoholics, I grew up and I said, I will never be like my dad. And my experience is that you either turn out exactly like them or you go the polar opposite.
Total opposite. Yes. Completely.
Like no middle ground there.
None. There's no grace and mercy. Not for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I too was, I look back on it now, and I was drinking alcoholically by the age, I was a daily drinker by 19. Mm-hmm. By 19, I was a daily drinker. And so what happened was my disease progressed over time. And, I know a lot of folks, when they tell this kind of a story, they have this long, agonizing bottom that they talk about. And it's just not how it happened for me. The way that it happened for me was June 18th, 1997. I was driving home, and I was driving home from the bar. My daughter had gone on vacation. So I was a single mother at that time, and I had no restraints on my drinking. So I went out after work, and I went to the bar, and I drank the way I like to drink. And make no mistake, the way I like to drink is like a pig. I drank till the wheels fall off. That's just, I drank for the effects of alcohol. I always drank for the effects of alcohol. And I went out and I drank the way I like to drink. And I got behind the wheel of a car. And, every part of me wants to lie to you and tell you that was an unusual occurrence, but that just wouldn't be true. The honest truth is I was a drunk driver, was always a drunk driver.
Yeah.
And I went out, it was June 18th, 1997. And I drank the way I like to drink. And then I got behind the wheel of a car and what I remember is a huge impact and a flash of white light. And then I remember being airborne. I remember just being airborne. And then I just remember being crushed beyond belief. And somehow, some way I was able to pull myself free of that wreckage. And I don't know how, because I was so crushed, I couldn't even inhale. I couldn't inflate my lungs.
Right.
And I pulled myself free of the wreckage. And I had taken a blow to the head so hard that my teeth came through my face.
Oh, my goodness.
And I had to grab my face and just tear them off my jaw so I could unlock my jaw because it was giving me that fight or flight response. And next thing I know, the police were there and they took me to jail. And so I was processed and I passed out and in this receiving cell was a television and I heard my name and it woke me up and I looked up at the television and there on the television I saw my car wrapped around a telephone pole. Wow. And the newscaster said that Roxanne H. of Escondido, California had hit and killed a 32-year-old bicyclist.
Wow. So Roxanne, this is how you found out why you were being arrested by the time you're a little bit more cognitive, a little bit more lucid, and you found out that you had killed someone else on a TV.
Yes.
While you're in jail.
Yes.
Wow.
And I could never explain to you or any other human being what that moment was like for me.
Yeah.
But
words.
What I know is that you'll never find out if you don't pick up that first drink or that first drug.
Yeah, that's such a powerful, beautiful statement. Powerful, beautiful statement. Right. But then I know this is about, you honoring the person who you killed, their life, their family, how that impacted, I understand that. But you had to deal with your own trauma, your own way to bring in this new truth that your life just completely changed. Right? I know it's easy if people say, well, at least you had a life, but that doesn't help you. Right? You had to completely readjust because none of us who drink alcoholically set out to hurt someone else. It happens, but it's never why I started drinking. I just wanted my own pain to stop. I never knew I was going to hurt somebody else. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to go deep. So yeah, I would torture myself with that for years. I suffered from massive depressions, as you can imagine, for years. That story, that incident took me to a maximum security death row penitentiary. I didn't, everyone wants to think that you get help. I really didn't get any. I think I got to see a psychiatrist once. I doubt there were psychiatrists. All I think about is probably psychologists.
Right.
One time. And honestly, and I still to this day remember what he said to me. And what he said to me was, if this had happened to your friend, what would you say to your friend? because I was beating myself up. I just could not forgive myself for such an act. And
Right, sure.
and if I'm able to look at that in the third person as if somebody else had done it, I would be able to look at you or her or him and say, well, I understand how you didn't get in your car that night with any malice or intention in your heart, that it was an accident. And but it would take me years to really be able to process that and not torture myself. And so you talk about, reconnecting with yourself, and I would have to say that I put the plug in the jug, oh my gosh, 23 years ago. My real journey to reconnecting with myself and connecting to God has been through self-forgiveness. And that's been a 23-year journey for me. And I think the way that I have done that is by helping others, by helping other people get clean, get sober, and help other families from suffering.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely resilience. It's beautiful. It's God taking something tragic and making it good, and you being such a beautiful vessel. So the key word you said was self-forgiveness and the power of that and how difficult it is. I mean, most of our listeners can think of a time they said one thing to somebody that was insensitive, and they will perseverate on it for weeks and play it over and over again once they've done it differently. And you're talking that there's somebody now not on the earth as a result of your alcoholism. And so can you tell me a little bit about how long you had to be in prison? Did self-forgiveness start then? Did you have to get released from prison and not be reminded of it constantly for the self-forgiveness to start?
So this was many years ago, before they had the kind of sentences that they do now. And I had no prior. So my sentence was 16 months. I tried to get help within the walls of the institution. It was considered a privilege and not a right to be able to attend a 12-step meeting. And the problem with that is, to have a privilege, you had to have a spot in school or a job. Well, they were 100% over capacity. So that meant half the people didn't have a job or a place in school, so they couldn't have this right. Or this privilege.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't go to my first 12-step meeting for it was like 5 or 6 months. And to even get 12-step literature in, it had to come from the World Service Office. So even being able to get help that way was incredibly difficult. And so I just clung to, I wrote letters. I had gotten a home group in a 12-step fellowship before I left, and my home group members wrote to me. To this day, I brought a service commitment to Charlotte in the year 2005, and I still am a big proponent. It's called Correspondence and Corrections, and it's a way for anybody to be of service to another human being who is in an institution. And it doesn't have to be a prison. It could be a hospital environment. This particular one is for those who are incarcerated. And so I started out where I just had letters from, other people with substance use disorders that would write to me, because I needed the message of hope.
Yeah,
I was living in an environment that was rage and hate and violence. And I had been told in the 12-step fellowship that I needed to find a higher power. But I have to tell you, when you are in this abyss of violence, it's very hard to feel God. And I would just walk the prison yard, and I would, this is so alcoholic, you're gonna love this. And I would just walk the prison yard and I would say, God, if you're there, just shake that tree.
Right. Right.
And of course, if the wind blew, I'd be like, okay, God, if that's you, shake it again, because
of course. Yeah, I love it.
And so here I am searching, seeking and searching for a higher power in a place that felt it was just hate and I was terrified all the time.
Like you're in a trauma response consistently.
I had horrible PTSD.
Oh, absolutely.
Just terrible, untreated PTSD and depression for years.
Yeah.
So that's really where the journey started. And I remember it was the 1 year anniversary, and I went to the prison church, and I was sitting in the back, and a woman at the front, she started singing, and I looked up, and I remember her saying, just a little bit of faith, just a little bit of faith. And she was singing that, and it really was a spiritual experience for me, because I realized in that moment, all I had to have was just a little bit of faith that if I worked the 12 steps to the best of my ability, if I trusted in God, cleaned house, and helped others, that there was hope for me. Yeah. And that there was a chance that my life would be redeemed. And I called home. My mom was worried about me that day. When she answered the phone, she was crying. And I said, Mama, what's the matter? And she said, honey, hospice is here. Your grandmother's dying. And, when I was out there drinking and doing the things I did, I knew my grandmother was sick. But, you're always going to call them on the weekend. And then the weekend comes and you don't call. And you're always going to do it next week and the next week. And here it was the end. She was in hospice. And my mom would tell me she would bring a calendar to her bedside. And every day they would make an X. And my grandmother would try, and she tried to make it until I would come home. But sadly, she did not make it. But I just put one foot in front of the other, one day at a time.
I just want to pause there because it's just so powerful, and it's just hard to get sober. It just is, and there's so much to that, and there's so much trauma already happening. There's so much disconnection from self that leads to us drinking alcoholically in the first place. And for you to try to find a way to reconnect to yourself, you can't even get to a meeting. I don't know if people understand, and you do more than I do, but I was an officer for a certain amount of time. The amount of violence and normalcy in the violence in prisons. Like you can never rest. Right. And we do our best. We do our best when we're connected. It's the we of the program. It's being able to be relaxed and hear new information. And you can't even do that. And you're hanging on to these powerful words of a little bit of faith. And knowing that if you work the steps and clean house and trust God, that you get to be redeemed and be a vessel. Like that's hard to do sitting in your 5,000 square foot house in Ballantyne. Right. But you did it in prison. The strength of that, the way you had to rely on your higher power, that's such testimony.
Yeah, you say rely. Boy, it didn't feel like it at the time.
I'm sure.
Honestly, I just took all the suggestions. And so they would say, pray to something that you don't know is there. And I didn't know that something was there. And I remember that the way that I started, because I didn't have a higher power. And so I just wrote out a list. I remember writing a letter of everything I wanted in a best friend. And I wanted someone that loved me unconditionally.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Someone that would always support me. Somebody who wanted the best for me. and someone funny. And I just want to caution everybody on that one, by the way.
Too late for me.
Yeah, careful what you wish for.
Right, 100%.
And that literally was how I started, was this list of everything I wanted in a best friend. And I would literally just pray to that every night, and they would just tell me, as I would just like to tell all our listeners, which is just believe that I believe.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a higher power to call your own, you're welcome to use mine until you find one of your own, because mine's a rock star. Let me just say right now.
Yeah.
I got rock star.
Right. That's right.
I got rock star higher power who was able to do for me things I couldn't do for myself, really, from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the privileges of me being raised in AA and not being raised in a church is that I got told the same thing you get told, probably, and I had permission to have a blank piece of paper and decide. And so initially, God looked like Oprah. And then I was like, well, that's restrictive. And so then it was just, had to be open hands. Just the idea that someone's going to welcome me, because I couldn't fathom somebody wanting me there, welcoming me, inviting me. Right? And it was that simple of a beginning. And it wasn't complex. Like, it couldn't be. It couldn't be. There's such a beauty in it when we can make it that simple, and then it can be added to, deleted, whatever later. But the fact that you wrote out who you want your best friend to be, that's so personal. That's so personal that it has more power than someone else telling you who God is.
Yeah, and I actually remember the very first time that I felt the presence of God. I was in my cell, and I was alone, and that never happens. I don't know how that happened.
Right.
It was completely unusual, and I was in my bunk, and I was alone, and it's so loud. To this day, I'm still very auditory sensitive.
Sure.
And it's, the lights are so bright, and it's loud, and I just remember being overcome with a sense of compassion for all these women. And let me say right now, I did time with some women that had done some very bad things.
Right.
And I'd also like to say that I don't know what the percentage is. I believe it at the time it was somewhere in the 90s. 90 some odd percent had all committed their crimes either under the influence of some sort of drug or alcohol, or was directly related to mental health issues.
It's still the same statistic.
Yeah, wow. And I just remember for the first time, I just was overcome with this sense of compassion for all these women and what they had been through. And I still remember that. I still remember that to this day.
Yeah, that's so well said, and just beautiful to get to a place of compassion. And it's compassion towards people that can be a threat to you, and we're a threat. And again, you're young in this situation, and like, I don't know how your body adjusts. I don't know how you physiologically and psychologically adjust to hanging out at home or hanging out in a bar, being in your own apartment, to now all of a sudden you have no choice of who's around you when you go to the bathroom, who you shower around, if you can get to a meeting or not. It's just drastic.
It was. I didn't have any kind of a background either that would have given me an introduction to what I was in store for.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. I was hypervigilant. I was on hypervigilant alert the entire time.
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, I would think even once you were released, I don't know how much trauma work you had to do in order to to have a sense of being able to relax for a second. And my guess is even where you sit and what you do today has a lot to do with taking care of yourself and feeling like you can be protective and have an exit.
I remember when I got out, because you just try and fake everything, right? As you're getting reacclimated back into society.
Yeah.
And I remember I ate with my hands because you don't get silverware. People get stabbed with silverware.
Right.
So, you eat with your hands. If you're lucky, you might get one of those huge, big plastic spoons at best. But I remember when I got out, I ate a lot of hamburgers because I didn't want people to see that I could even eat with silverware.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's profound. That is so profound.
Mm-hmm.
What's been the biggest surprise for you as you've gone through your journey and been sober? Because part of what happens for any of us, much less for someone who's been through what you've been through, is being able to receive the blessings, letting things get better, knowing we're worthy of things getting better. What's that been like for you?
That has been a very long road, is what that has been. That has been a very, very long road. I would say that the beginning of that happened. I remember one day there was this huge, it was in prison. There was this huge crowd of women and a big crowd. But there was no bullets flying, no batons flying. So I was like, what's going on? And the way I had managed to survive was by being invisible, frankly. That's just as honest as I could be. I just called no attention to myself. Right. Sure. So I didn't dare go see what happened. So I just stood outside on the fringes for the longest time. And then as the day wore on, the crowd got smaller and smaller and dispersed until at the very end of the day, there was just 2 lifers. And there was 2 lifers left, and they had their face pressed to the glass, to the window. And mind you, they have found a way to take everything away from you, including Mother Nature. And outside of this window is just literally miles of just pouring gravel. And right outside of the window, a baby bunny had made a nest right outside of the window.
Oh, wow.
And that's what had taken the attention of hundreds and hundreds
of criminals,
of women throughout the day. And I remember standing next to this lifer named Miss Annie, who died behind the walls. And I remember Miss Annie remember her looking up and saying, "Thank you, God. Thank you for showing me that."
Wow.
And, Miss Annie had missed everything. She had missed her children being raised. She'd missed the birth of her grandchildren. She literally had missed an entire lifetime. And I knew with the 12 steps that I had a chance. And it was one of those moments where the pain was so great. I knew that I would die. The 12 steps was my way out. It was my way out of prison. I knew that the 12 steps was my way out. And I didn't want my legacy to be that I was the one who had killed somebody.
Yeah.
And I started working the 12 steps. And I started working the 12 steps through the mail with a sponsor. And I didn't have anything. She would send me pieces of paper and she would put a smiley face on it. And she would say, "Jesus loves you." And I would erase it. And then I would do my step work on that paper and then mail it back. And I can remember doing my 4th step and I'd run out. I didn't even have so much as a piece of paper. And I got a roll, they have those toilet paper rolls that have a wrapper on it. And I remember doing my 4th step on the toilet paper roll.
Wow.
And mailing it back to her. And because I was told that if I took the 12 steps, that I would change.
Yeah.
And that I knew with God I could do anything. I knew with God and the 12 steps I had a chance.
Yeah.
And so I worked the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, I worked the 12 steps, and I had worked the steps before I got out of prison. And so my journey really began in a 12-step fellowship. And for me, the self-forgiveness, I was taught that if you want self-esteem, do esteemable things. And I tell my clients today, it's really hard to beat yourself up at the end of the day when you put your head on the pillow if you've done all the right things. And so if you take the next right action, what I know is you will always, always get the right result.
Yeah.
And so I started out with helping other people. And, in the beginning, I felt like I didn't have anything to give. Maybe helping somebody else might have been just calling you today and saying, how are you?
Right.
And just maybe being a good listener. Maybe that was the best I could do. And that was a beginning, that was a beginning for me. And then I would go on to sponsor and help other people. Then I would take it, it's funny. I took, it was the longest held. I held the longest badge in Mecklenburg County. I took 12-step fellowship into the Mecklenburg County Jail for 8 years. Pre-COVID, I was also a speaker and educator in the drug and alcohol program in the jail. And then, of course, because I abandoned a child to go to prison, my living amends to my daughter and to all the families out there was that I became a guardian ad litem for the North Carolina court system, and that was a living amends. My staying clean and sober is my living amends to the victim, and helping others achieve sobriety is how I was able to take such a horrible, awful story and make it mean something, make it count for something.
Yeah, that's the self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
So just for our listeners who don't know, the 4-step is possibly one of the hardest steps because you're writing out all the resentments, all the things that you feel like are done against you, what part of you is affected, what your part is in it. It's a moral inventory of your life. And many people leave the program once they get to the 4th step because the 5th step is you confessing all of it to God and to yourself and to another human being who listens to every single bit of your sin, shame, whatever you want to call it. It's your whole story, and it's really difficult to do. And majority of us who are doing them are sitting in a meeting, their AA meetings held in a church or some 12-step program held somewhere, and you're, Roxanne, talking about you're scrapping for toilet paper covering to write it out. Like the humility and the beauty of that is tremendous.
I was so broken.
Yeah.
I just was so broken. And my sponsor told me that if I was willing to work a thorough step, if I was willing to tell my story at the podium level, that I would heal. Yeah. And I was so broken and I needed to heal. I had the gift of desperation.
Yeah, it is a gift. Yeah. The work in the 12 steps is probably one of the biggest gifts, if not the gift, given to me, because the steps are the purpose to get to the 12th step, which is having a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. And then we carry that message to other alcoholics. And that means we do the work on ourselves first. We don't take care of people in lieu of doing our own work. We do the work. We cleanse. And then from that place, a place of worth, a place of being renewed, we go out and help other people. And your ability to do that, Roxanne, is like I don't have words for it. It's tremendous. Just your dedication to that. And 8 and 9 have to do with amends. She brought up living amends. And that's part of what we do. And some people you can't make direct amends to for different reasons. And we find our ways intentionally to make living amends. We don't act like it's okay when it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to me, hardcore, beautiful, amazing 12-step work.
It's definitely been a long, hard, and beautiful journey into recovery. There's so many gifts. I could just never tell you. I could just never tell you all the gifts that come with being clean and sober. I mean, aside from just being able to restore other families, to be able to help people to stop from suffering.
Right.
I mean, that's a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
But the gifts I can remember, in the beginning, and like you said, it's really, really hard. I remember sitting in a meeting in the early days, and I was listening to a speaker. It's actually how I would find my sponsor, my first sponsor. And, I don't know what that woman said. I just know that for the time that she spoke, I was just transformed. I was taken out of all this misery and despair, and I was transformed to somewhere. And I know where that place is now. It's called hope.
Yeah.
It's called a place of hope.
Right.
When I was hopeless.
Yeah.
And the big book talks about it. And for me, it was as thick as a strand of hair. And that's how it started. Literally, it was as thick as a strand of hair. That if I did this stuff that was suggested of me, that I would change, that my life would change. It was inconceivable to me that I would ever have promises and I would ever earn people's love or people's respect, or, none of that stuff was going to come from me. Maybe for someone like you, but not for the stuff that I had done. And I remember clearly one of the biggest moments, God's presence that I had indeed changed. And I remember my daughter, after I got out of prison, I had lost my daughter. My rights to my child were terminated, as many are that suffer with this disease. And I went back to, I did the things that I had to do, and I went back to court, and I got my custody back. I went through all that and got my daughter back. And it was years later. I remember she had a report to do in school. She didn't tell me about it. She had a book report, and they had to write a report on who their hero was. And I remember her bringing that to me and telling me who it was that she had written about. And I was the hero.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful.
I was the hero.
Yeah.
And I just never saw that coming.
Yeah,
I never thought that I would ever earn anybody's love and respect back. But for my daughter to do that was it was a really profound moment for me.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just how children look at things, their ability to forgive.
Oh, isn't it something?
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. I just love that. And that you also did the work to go get her back. Some of us have so much shame, we won't even try to do that.
I have been asked so many times over the years, how did you do it? Because you're right. You and I, in this business, we see people give up every day. Every single day. And I have to say, I just have to say, it really was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Yeah. Because honestly, this sounds silly, but I mean it. I just didn't know that I could give up. I just didn't know I could. I think that if any point in time, anybody had come up to me and just put a hand on my shoulder and said, "Oh, honey, you've done enough," I think I would have fallen apart at the seams.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that I could not give up. I didn't know. I knew it was hard. I knew getting up and pushing every day was hard, but I just didn't know I could stop. It wasn't an option for me.
Yeah. And I'm so glad so many people, thousands of people are blessed because you kept going, that you now get to be the voice of hope. It's amazing. So I know you make a daily living amends to the person on the bicycle, and I think that's beautiful. I'm going to ask this because I know our listeners are thinking this. Has there been any contact with the family? Does the family keep in touch with you? Did any involvement on that level?
So the answer is yes. First contact was, of course, a letter of amends from jail. Then I would see the family at sentencing. And it is exactly like you see it on television.
Yeah.
Where they tell you exactly what you have done to them.
Yeah.
And then, gosh, there's very few people in the whole wide world who know the story. After I got out of prison, I was out of prison, I would say about a year. And they drugged me back and they put me on trial. And I was put on trial in a civil suit. And I was in the courtroom with all the family. And I was on trial for a month. And I sat right next to the widow and the family members every day for a month. And it was a very difficult process. It was hard. It was just so hard to see all the lives that I had devastated.
Yeah.
And I remember when that trial was over, I just started praying. The courtroom was emptying out. And I could feel my anxiety level going up and up and up and up. And I just started praying. And I just said, God, please, if there's anything left that I'm supposed to do, I need you to do it for me. Because honestly, I was literally paralyzed, physically paralyzed. And I don't know what happened, but I leaned over and I got my token out of my purse, and I walked over to the widow and I told her that it was a gift. It was a gift from her husband and from God. And that it was my living amends to make that mean something.
Yeah.
And I left. I was taught that my footwork was to do the next right thing and to clean my side of the street, but that I wasn't responsible for how it was received.
That's right.
Nor did I have,
that's right,
honestly, the strength to stand there one more second.
Right. It's none of our business how it gets received, but I can hear you that you just needed to get out as soon as you could. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've spent the last 23 years living up to what I said.
Yeah.
And that was not only to staying clean and sober, but to helping others be clean and sober. And I have since also run into members of the defense team. It turns out it was actually watched for some time. And I had somebody from the other side tell me one day, they said, we've been watching you and we know that you're clean and sober.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. There's no doubt because of the character change, because of how you carried yourself, what you did for others, that no one can doubt that you are clean and sober today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there's someone out there still just struggling, not even necessarily with addiction, but the depression, the effects of PTSD, and they don't quite know how to have the layer of hope that's been placed over you, what words do you have for them today?
Gosh, I think if I could say anything, it would be reach out for help. Just reach out for help. Reaching out for help is, I don't know why it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. But what I know my personal experience is once I was finally able to do it, the reality is those that those that I reached out to really extended their hand to me. They made it so easy.
Yeah.
The resistance and the fight was all right here, right between my two ears. It was my own head that made things so hard.
Right.
So I think if I had any words, it would be to please reach out. Reach out to anybody. Reach out to me. I'm sure we'll have some way to get some contact information out. There are all kinds of resources out there, whether it's a suicide hotline, whether it's calling an intergroup office for a 12-step fellowship. There are a variety of resources available out there. And what I know is you don't have to feel the way you're feeling. There is help out there.
Right.
And there's a lot of people just like me that are waiting to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that as we wrap this up, part of what's so beautiful about you and your story is that, you did what you could. And again, if that's writing on paper, of toilet paper, if it's writing on paper, that you did what you could, but you also let people be there and do things for you that you couldn't do. And I think that's just so powerful. That you let it be what it needed to be for you so you could get better. So I thank you for that message.
Yes, thank you.
For people.
I am blessed beyond measure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope that others will have the privilege of finding what I have been so blessed to find.
Yeah. And that you've worked really hard for. And this was...
I have.
A lot's been given. You've also worked very, very hard.
Thank you.
I thank you for that. Will you tell people how to get in touch with you? If there's, whether it's a handle on Instagram or Facebook or or your website, how will people find you if they needed to get some help?
You can find me at RoxanneRecoveryCoach.com. There's a variety of ways. Basically on social media, you put in Roxanne Recovery Coach, you'll find me. Please reach out. At the very least, perhaps I can connect you to resources.
Thank you for being this and for just being a beautiful reminder of why we do what we do, why we work so hard. I really appreciate it. So to all you listeners, I know you've heard something really special today, and that your lid got flipped, and that you've been able to reconnect a little bit more today to who you really are. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Please subscribe, rate, and share. You can find Kim on Facebook or Instagram at KBHoneycutt. To get an autographed copy of Kim's book, visit butyourmotherlovesyou.com. Remember, no matter what, treat yourself well today.